Say it with me. Polka will never die.
Be more than human.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Joseph Carroll. I write under the pen name J.R. Carroll, and today we're coming back to Dresden, and specifically Deadbeat, which is one of those legendary type Dresden books. Especially, throughout the fandom, you will hear people reference this as one of their top books in all the series. And some of the biggest and best moments happen within Deadbeat. Now, you will have probably seen the memes um, you know on the on the internet with Harry riding a T-Rex, and that is something we will get to here in a few minutes. A lot happens in this book, so as um, if you are subscribed, which you should be if you are not, um, subscribe now. If you've watched the previous, iterations with the Dresden Files, we are doing spoilers. So, if you haven't yet read this book, um, I suggest you know, jump off here, go read it, and then come back, because we're seven, 8 books in now, so um, we're gonna kind of roll right in here. Um, so Deadbeat, starts off with Murphy, telling Dresden that she's going on vacation, which throws Dresden off because he's like, Murphy doesn't go on vacations. She doesn't take time off, and she's trying to tell him. Well, I never take vacations. I need some me time, and there's this little weird thing where um, Dresden feels like he wants to tell her not to go, and he thinks she wants to say that, but you know how Harry is, so he's like, I'm not gonna tell Murphy what she can and can't do. But then it ends up she tells him she's going to Hawaii and she's gonna be there with Kincaid, and Harry's like, he's not even human. What do you like? You can't do that. And she was just like, well, I need to live my life, and but there's was that thing like, does she want him to tell, for him to tell her to stay? And he doesn't. You know, he does the stupid Harry thing. Okay, I guess I'll water your plants. And that is kind of a running joke, through the book whenever he says what Murphy's doing. Well, I'm just watering her plants. But obviously, this was a way for Jim Butcher to kind of have Murphy not be in the book. You know, because if she's here when all this stuff is going on, obviously she's gonna help Harry. So this was a clever way of getting her out of the book so he can bring other characters in and have them kind of shine. Um, so the next thing you know, of course, Mavra, shows up and demands that Harry have a meeting with her, and she has these incriminating pictures of Harry and Murphy at the in the basement with killing at Renfield. So obviously they know he's not human anymore. He's gone. But in the pictures, he looks human enough, and that would ruin Murphy's career, probably send both of them to jail. And she tasks him. She says, I give you my word. If you get me the word of Kemmler, I will give you all the copies and there won't be anything to it. And, so Harry's like, "Oh, swear under power, blah, blah, blah." And then, Harry's, trying to figure out what the word of Kemmler is. And it turns out that the people who are, searching for the, word of Kemmler are also trying to get this book on the Earl King. And, Bob ends up telling him that, well, yeah, you know, he's like a high up in the wild fae, maybe almost as strong as the queens. So, he ends up trying to call up his fairy godmother for information. Turns out she's locked up by Mab because the imbalance, like her dagger, and then made her think that she was getting too strong. So Mab has to kind of like imprison her until she realizes who's the boss. But Mab is sworn to give over all the information that his godmother would have. So you know tells her about the Earl King and and Kemmler. And so it turns out Kemmler was this badass necromancer, and the wardens were trying to track him down for years. He's the reason for World War I, and did a lot of bad stuff in World War II before they killed him. They had to kill him like 3 times because he kept coming back. But finally they made him dead. But so Harry's at the bookstore, Box Bookstore in Chicago, and you know so we get to meet Bach, and we meet this lady who's working for him, Sheila, and while Harry's back there in the special book section looking for the real stuff. And um, he's kind of flirting with Sheila. She seems to be flirting back with him. But Harry finds the book. She tells him, "Oh, she's like, oh yeah, it's a weird book. I have a photographic memory, and I read that book a while ago." And he's like, "Oh, well that's pretty cool, And she like scribbles her number on his hand, and you know all that good stuff. So you're like, "Oh well, at least Harry's getting something going, right?" Then as he tries to exit the uh, the bookstore, he gets attacked by um, these two people, Cal and Komori. Well, I believe Cal is a direct disciple of Kemmler, and Harry's like, "I've never felt power, someone so strong." Harry ends up trying to drop a car on, used a ton of his power to drop a car on this dude, and it turns out that the guy was able to hold it off just enough to he wobbled him, but he was still okay. Harry's like, how did he take this kind of power? you know so Harry ends up uh hooking up with Butters, and going to check out Butters to see if there's any weird stuff going on with the dead, any weird dead guys, right? And of course, it it goes crazy, right? They hear that this they hear this beat going on, and another disciple, Gravane, rolls up, and zombies, 6 zombies after them, and they're running, running for the hills from these crazy zombies. So we got Butters. Harry sends him back to stay with Thomas at Harry's house. And that's a whole nother thing. Thomas is staying with Harry right now, and he's driving Harry nuts and whatnot. But then you have Harry's house being attacked, and you know, when Harry, they're all down there and they're all being attacked, and Harry's, well, assumes, he's like, hey, my house has wards, steel corridor, everything, we should be good. But he never expected someone to throw just inanimate bodies at his wards, and eventually his wards break down. They're able to grab Butters, through the window, and Harry's, ends up, making a deal, making a deal with him, with Gravane, like, hey, you know, I'll help you out, blah blah blah. Don't, you know, don't do anything to Butters, and then Cal and Komori end up, you know, running into him, and they battle because they, you know, so we figure out the whole goal all these people have, because it's around, it's around Halloween, is to use uh, the Book of the Earl King to summon the Earl King to bring the Wild Hunt to Chicago, so that they can get all the dead souls, that the Wild Hunt will bring up, and devour them, and use the word of Kemmler to create the Dark Hollow, and one of them can become a god, like a dark god. And then of course they can destroy the White Council or kill their foes or do whatever. Uh, Nothing good, obviously. um, but there's a hinge, like a sidekick, that I want to say it's Gravane has, um, and his name, and Harry just calls him Liver Spots. And Harry's like, I kind of recognize this guy, but I'm not sure. And Harry's always like bad mouthing this guy anytime they interact a couple different times, and he's bad mouthing this guy, and you know, uh, so we're kind of left when the last time that they see each other and they're gone, you know, Harry's just got this in the back of his mind, like, who is this guy, right? Um, then Harry ends up having to call the wardens. Like, it's so bad. Harry's like, you know how Harry feels about the wardens. He hates them, right? But he's like, you know what? I got to do it. So he calls them in, like, um, like they have some heavy hitters come in. You have Morgan, and then the leader of the wardens shows up, Lucio, Warden Lucio. And then we figure out the reason why you have two of the top wardens in the world coming down is not only to stop Kemmler's disciples, but it is because there was just a huge attack. The Red Court just went crazy and full on attacked the White Council, followed them into the way, and so it was just an all out thing. Like, it seems like the Red Court doesn't care anymore. They don't care about you know, the Winter Court, the Summer Court. They're just frenzy, right? And they killed like a third of all the wardens in the world. So it was just devastating, and they hurt a lot of the senior council. But they're in town, they're like, all right, we're going to help you take them down. And, Harry, had Sheila. He ends up going to Sheila to get her to, because he ends up losing the book, to one of the, I want to say maybe the one called the Corpse Taker got it from him, or maybe it was Kumore. But he loses the book, goes to Sheila because she has a photographic memory. She's read the book. She reads back what he needs. Um, but then we find out he's talking to Sheila, and in her building, goes up to her building or whatever, and Butters was with him, waiting downstairs. Got scared, comes upstairs, and he's like, "Hey, um, Dresden." Like, Dresden's like, "Oh, this is Sheila," and Dresden's like, he's like, "Nobody's here." And then this veil just drops, and you find out that Sheila is actually Lashiel's shadow. So that was like a big, mind blown moment, right? And it, turns out like so it's just the shadow of Lashiel, not her full power, you know. And she, is trying to convince Harry, like, let me help you. I can help you get, get away from these people. And Harry's like, I know if I ask you this time, then I'll need a little more next time, and I'll need a little more, and then you're gonna want to be free, and then it's, you've taken me over. Um, but so then after that, it's an all-out sprint to the finish line. He's like, I gotta stop them. He tries to trap the Earl King in a circle in his in his backyard, or in Murphy's backyard, and gets knocked over the head by Cal, and or Cal or Gravane, one of the two, and because he almost had the Earl King. It was crazy, but he almost had him. Earl King gets free and just sets off the wild hunt. So then Harry's, racing to try and stop him, um, and he ends up he there's a whole underplot of how he ends up finding the word, but he ends up finding the word of Kemmler in the Museum of Natural History, and liver spots. Um, just as he finds it, liver spots and Gravane stop him, and so Gravane, drops Harry down so liver spots can start like beating on him. So he's got like this manacles on him, and he starts beating on him. He's like, "Do you know who I am now?" And it turns out that liver spots is actually the snake dude that had the coin that Harry beat, broke his legs with a baseball bat. So this guy's going to town on Harry, and Harry had told Butters when they came in to run. Well, Butters and Mouse both come back, and Mouse ends up killing liver spots. And so Harry's all tore up, and he's just like, we gotta get out of here. We gotta get back there. We gotta stop the Dark Hollow. And he realizes that they need necromancy energy to make it into this like sphere of magic around this dark magic, necromancer magic. And uh, he reanimates Sue, the most complete Tyrannosaurus uh, skeleton in the world. And I mean, it's one of the most legendary, things. Um, you know, so Harry and Butters are on the back of the T Rex, and you have to keep a beat to keep zombies going. So Butters is back there with his like little polka machine and making the beats going, and they're running into battle, and they're screaming, Polka will never die. And it's just, in your mind, it's just one of the most epic, epic scenes from Dresden. And they end up busting through, and he ends up fighting a bunch of, different Kemmler disciples. And Lucio and him end up fighting the Corpse Taker. Well, there's a whole big mix-up. Uh, it looks like Lucio kills the Corpse Taker, but actually what happened was the Corpse Taker got wounded on purpose and then switched bodies. Corpse Taker, Body Snatcher. And, Harry ends up killing Lucio's body because it's the Corpse Taker. And, of course, you get the other wardens, and and Morgan flips out, and so, but luckily that all gets, one of the other wardens figures it out, and it's like, Lucio comes back, and it's me, and they end up taking down the other disciples. I want to say that Cal was the last one standing, I want to say, and he ends up getting like, I think he ends up getting like blown to bits, or seemingly exploded when Harry charges and breaks the circle, and just this dark energy just explodes. And of course, Harry is all tore up from being beaten down by liver spots and just, just the normal way. Harry ends up just getting beat up all the time. And the Earl King sees him, again, and he's like, "Oh my God, he's gonna get killed." And he's like, "You brought the ancient hunter back to life. I can respect that." He goes, "But if I ever see you again, I will hunt you down." Um, and this was just one of the most epic. I mean, this is already a long video for me, right? And it could have been a lot longer. I'm sure I left out a bunch, but there was just so much built up into this book. And so just let me know what you guys thought of this book. Is it one of your favorites? Leave me a comment. Make sure you're subscribed. We're almost to 400, and we'll have something special for somebody, one of you lucky subscribers out there. So until next time, see ya.